Hello everyone, welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live on Monday and Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel. And I have the wrong slide, sorry about that. Here we go, back at the beginning. So again, my name is Doug. Welcome to Options with Doug, streaming on Monday and Wednesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure: all Bookmap Limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure: trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Here's my contact information. The best way to get in touch with me is through Discord. My name on Discord is Doug P. Also in Bookmap Discord, there's an Options-Doug chat channel. That's a great place to post questions, comments, and content related to the topics of my presentation and the topics of the channel that I'll go through in just a moment. I'm also on X. My name there is @Pless. Just a note for everyone, Bookmap is encouraging everyone to join Bookmap Discord. You do need a Bookmap subscription, and there is a free subscription available. Once you subscribe, you will need to verify your account, a little bit of extra work on your part, but then you can join me in Bookmap Discord, and that will help to ensure that this webinar continues. So if you find value in my content, please join Bookmap Discord and join me on Bookmap Discord for the stream, as well as participation in chat, as well as many other chat channels and streams. Here are the key tenets to my approach to trading. This is the basis of my approach to trading. I believe in options trades and market maker hedging activity are key drivers of price in many stocks and futures. Certainly for the large cap tech stocks like the Magnificent Seven stocks that I trade and follow, as well as the equity index futures. And for the S&P 500, SPX is the underlying index. SPY is the ETF version of that index. And the ES futures contract is a derivative of SPX. And when traders buy and sell puts and calls in SPX and SPY, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with ES futures. And for the Nasdaq 100, NDX is the underlying index. QQQ is the much more liquid ETF version of that index. And the NQ futures contract is a derivative of NDX. And when traders buy and sell puts and calls in NDX and QQQ, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with NQ futures. The focus of my presentation today and the focus of the Options-Doug chat channel is options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading. The first is planning, and I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned in the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day, as well as the directional bias. And the second step in my process is execution. I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow on Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis. And for setups, and when I talk about setups today, I will be focusing on an underlying asset. This is very important. The setups that I talk about can be taken with options, futures contracts, shares of stock, depending on the way you like to trade as well as the asset. Questions and comments are welcome, and I will be watching both the Options-Doug chat channel as well as the chat and YouTube for your questions and comments. Please feel free to post. I'll do my best to answer your questions. And hello, Hector. Welcome. Glad you're here. All right, here's my agenda for today, Monday, November 4th. First of all, I want to go over news items, economic data, and events for the week. Then I'll go through my positional analysis. Then I'll review some setups from earlier today. Then I'll get to the live market, and I'll try to do that sooner today. All right, so let's start with news items. Big, very, very big week. So let's get started with news. I'm sure everyone is aware. This is the news for the week. First of all, coming up tomorrow, the presidential election in the United States. And results will start to come in sometime in the evening and hopefully be known the next day or sometime overnight. All right, also tomorrow at 10 a.m. there's the ISM Services PMI. That can be a market mover. Then again, Wednesday, we will be looking for election results. And then on Thursday, this is the FOMC meeting. Normally it is on Tuesday and Wednesday. This week it has been pushed back one day. So I suppose because of the election. And the announcement meeting begins on Wednesday, and the announcement will be at 2 p.m. on Thursday. So I will not be broadcasting during that time like I normally do during the FOMC rate announcement. All right, so that is on Thursday. And then on Friday, Michigan consumer sentiment comes out at 10 a.m. All right, so that's a week. Could be a pivotal week, again, with the election and the FOMC meeting. And as regarding the FOMC, I believe there is a very large percentage chance of a 25 basis point rate hike. All right, so that is the upcoming week. And as far as earnings go, the stocks that I follow, the Magnificent Seven, all have reported earnings except for NVIDIA, which reports, I believe, on November 20th. So we'll talk about that as that comes up. All right, so that's news items. Let's move on to positional analysis now. I'm going to start with the SP 500. And this is the ES Futures and Bookmap. Before I take a closer look at this chart, I want to take a look at a higher time frame. And I trade 1986. I'll get to your question about levels in just a minute when I get back to this chart. So let's start with the SP 500. This is the SPX, the underlying index. 1 day, 1 year chart. Rally continues. A few pullbacks along the way. Now let's move on. That's again 1 year, 1 day chart. Let's take a look now at a 30-day, 1 hour chart. So the basic theme here is consolidation, expansion, consolidation again. And now, starting last week, last Thursday, SPX broke down below the lower level of this current consolidation that had gone on for a couple of weeks. Broke down Thursday, found support at the 5,700 put wall, tested that level again today. All right, so the 5,700 put wall, very key level the last couple of days. All right, let's take a look at the levels on this chart now. First of all, the dashed purple lines are showing the lower and upper weekly expected move. This is based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from last Friday. I believe the point range is for this week plus or minus 150 points, around there. So that's the expected move for the week. The dashed blue lines are showing the lower and upper daily expected move, also based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX, again from last Friday. I do post those levels in Discord every day the evening before. So far today, SPX trading within both of those ranges. All right, the dark red lines on this chart are Spotgamma levels. These are available to Spotgamma subscribers. They're based on gamma weighted open interest. I want to point out the key daily levels. First of all, here's the put wall that I mentioned before. And that is the strike with the largest net negative gamma that can be expected to act as support. And again, it has done its job for the last couple days. Above that is the volatility trigger at 5760. That is Spotgamma's proprietary volatility and gamma flip level. Below that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative. In a negative gamma environment, market makers have to trade with price to hedge the delta exposure. That tends to enhance or increase volatility. And we'll take a closer look at gamma in just a few minutes. And above that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is positive. In a positive gamma environment, market makers have to trade against price to hedge the delta exposure. That tends to subdue or decrease volatility. And note that level did move down from Friday, down to 5760 now. So according to this, SPX still in a negative gamma environment. And above that is the absolute gamma strike at 5800. That's this L1 level right here. That's the strike of the largest absolute positive and negative gamma. And then finally, the call wall remains at 6000. That's the strike with the largest net positive gamma that can be expected to act as resistance. So potential floor for price at 5700 put wall, and of course price is much closer to that level than the potential ceiling at 6000, the 6000 call wall. All right, those are the levels for SPX in a 30-day 1-hour chart. And let's wrap up our view of SPX with a 1-minute chart. So here's the breakdown last week on Thursday, and a test of around 5700. Price did close just above 5700 on Thursday, and then traded down below that level today, but now found support there and is moving higher. Up above, here's the volatility trigger that I mentioned before. Also note the 0 gamma level acted as resistance. All right, so I trade, there you go. SPX 5738, 0 gamma level acting as resistance, and the 5700 put wall acting as support. So that's why I keep track of those levels. And we'll see that on Bookmap. All right, so let's go to Bookmap now. And I'm showing overnight price action here to show the price slowly trending down, making lower highs. And there was a breakdown. We'll zoom in a little bit here. A breakdown before the cash open, shown right here at 9:30. And price found support. More about that setup in just a few minutes. And then found resistance again at the 5738 0 gamma level and the SPY 572 volatility trigger. And here's the support later on in the day at the 5700 put wall in this combo 1 level, just below that. All right, so again, I do post these index relationships that I'm using every day in Discord, and there is a difference between ES and SPX. And right now it is right around 29 and a half, something like that. Somewhere between, actually now it's closer to 29. Okay, so I'm showing the 5700 put wall at 57.29. Actually, I'm using 29.5. So I'm showing this put wall at 5700 at ES 5729.5. All right, so those are the levels in play for the SP 500. Again, shifts in levels. SPX volatility trigger shifted lower. SPY volatility trigger also shifted lower. And the absolute gamma strike for SPY shifted higher. So overall, pretty neutral shifts in levels for the SP 500. Let's move on to Nasdaq. This is the NQ futures of Bookmap. And let's take a quick look at the underlying index charts to see the levels in play. Here's QQQ. QQQ 485. Large gamma 4 level on the downside. And just below that, a combo level. That's a C4 level, combo 4 level. And Gregarious, welcome, glad you're here, asks, do you update the levels on your charts during the day as the options flow changes? Sometimes. So if I see a significant change in, this is where I track the ratios for ES to SPY and NQ to QQQ. So if I see a significant change during the day, yeah, I'll just update my spreadsheet. And then also for the ES to SPX, I just have that on a watch list here. In Thinkorswim, it does the calculation automatically. So there's the ES to SPX. And again, I'm using 29.5. It's somewhere between 29 and 29.5. It doesn't really have to be that close. So that's where all that information comes from. So I will update that during the day if I see any significant changes. All right, so that's QQQ. Support at the 490, 485, large gamma 4 level. Let's take a look at NDX. And by the way, Gregarious, to do that, all I have to do is update my spreadsheet. So once I put the initial levels, here's the ES to SPX. This is how I do that. So I started the day ES to minus SPX equal 30. That's what I was using last week. And after the open, it turns out that that is closer to 29, 29.5. So all I do is enter this in the spreadsheet. I-75, that's that column right there, minus 0.5, gives me 29.5. I drag that down, save my spreadsheet, and then my chart's updated automatically. So very easy to do. That takes just a few seconds. All right, so Nasdaq, we saw the QQQ levels that acted as support twice today. And there's that 489 QQQ level. Around that level acted as resistance. Let's take a quick look at NDX. Then we'll get back to Bookmap. NDX. No clear support and resistance, but note NDX is trading above its volatility trigger right now. All right, back to Bookmap. All right, for Nasdaq, the volatility trigger for NDX did move lower, and again, NDX trading above that level. And for QQQ, the volatility trigger and call wall moved higher. So plenty of room to run for QQQ, call wall at 510, and then the put wall moved lower to 465. So overall, fairly neutral shifts in levels for both the S&P 500 and Nasdaq. And more about setups in a few minutes. All right, let's wrap up our positional analysis by taking a look at Gamma for today. First of all, I'm going to take a quick look at gamma notional at the beginning of the day. This is market maker's position on the gamma curve at the beginning of the day for the S&P 500 and Nasdaq. This is what I look at. Note, with the exception of NDX, these numbers are negative, indicating in a negative gamma environment, traders are long puts, market makers are short puts, and they have to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure. And that was at the beginning of the day. These numbers did shift higher from Friday. Hello, Caesar. Welcome. Glad you're here. All right, so that's market makers gamma notional at the beginning of the day. And let's take a look at the current picture of gamma. This is the Spotgamma trace tool. This is fairly new. There are 3 different views of Greeks. There's gamma, charm, and delta pressure. And first of all, I'm looking at charm, and now it looks like this is for SPX. These blue bars, gamma exposure, this is market maker's position, positive gamma, and you can see that with the blue shading here. So moving up from a more neutral to slightly negative gamma, shown here. Now SPX would be moving up into more positive gamma. And note there are pockets of negative gamma. So this is slightly negative gamma here, neutral or negative gamma, and then more negative gamma down here below. So if price does break below the put wall, you would expect a potentially fast move down to the next key level. And up above 57.80, there's also some negative gamma. So typically looking for slower moves in positive gamma and faster moves in negative gamma. All right, so that's the picture of gamma. And one other thing to take a note of, let's go back to the beginning of the day. One thing that I've started to look at more and more. This is back at 9:30. Much less positive gamma at the beginning of the day. Much smaller blue bars here. Note the very prominent negative gamma below the put wall. Also note the stability index, 29%. That's pretty low, indicating wider movement, bigger movement in a less stable environment. All right, so that's gamma at the beginning of the day. Now back to real time. Picture of gamma more positive and a higher stability index. All right, so based on this, at the beginning of the day, I was definitely looking for wider movement, bigger moves. And just based on shifts on levels, no real directional bias. Just waiting to see what traders, options traders, and market makers were doing. All right, let's take a look at some setups now. So I'm going to start with the S&P 500. So what this chart is showing, this is the hero signal. And this is from Spotgamma, available to Spotgamma subscribers. What this chart is showing is options trades and market maker hedging activity for a combined signal of SPX, SPY, XSP, and ES futures. There are 2 lines on this chart. The white line is price, and the purple line is the hero signal. Again, showing options trades, market maker hedging activity for those index components. A falling hero signal indicates traders are taking negative delta positions. They are buying puts and or selling calls. And a rising hero signal indicates they are taking positive delta options positions. They are buying calls and or selling puts. And there's another signal. So this is the index signal for the S&P 500. There's another signal. This is the equity signal. So what this chart is showing is options trades and market maker hedging activity for all 500 stocks in the S&P 500 index. Again, white line is price, and the purple line is the hero signal showing combined put and call transactions. I'm going to go back to the index signal and note this is my default. So in the morning, I start out looking at the S&P 500 index signal. In my experience, this signal is a little bit more noisy than the equity signal, but it will give you more of a leading indicator, more of a leading signal to shift a potential change in hedging flow. And that's exactly what happened this morning. Note the flow alert came in. That was just after 9:35, maybe 9:37, something like that. A flow alert signals significant options activity. And for the S&P 500 especially, can often, not always, but often be a mean reverting signal. And that's exactly what happened here, showing just a little bit of a lead in the shift from negative delta options hedging flow to positive delta. And that made for a great long setup. Let's take a look at puts and calls now. So I'm going to have to jump back. Let's zoom in on this morning setup a little bit. Note the flow alert always shows up on the call line, but it is not specific to calls or puts. And most likely it was due to puts. And this is exactly what Brent was talking about in the Spotgamma AM Founders Note. As price moves lower, put sellers come in. They're taking advantage of high volatility. Let's take a quick look at. Let's go back to our SPX 30-day 1-hour chart. This little subchart here is plotting implied volatility versus historical volatility. You can see there's a pretty wide gap between implied volatility and historical volatility, and this is often very favorable for selling options. And that's exactly what traders were doing this morning. Started selling puts in the index products. Call buyers came in just a few minutes later and price moved higher. So we'll take a look at that setup. And then there was also a call peak setup right here. This peak came in about 10:30, and that was the high of the day so far. And it did take a while for the S&P 500 to finally reverse lower. And this is pretty similar to a pattern that I posted on Friday, with the only exception is on last Friday, there was a call peak and call buyers took their foot off the gas and they were buying puts from the open. So as soon as that call peak happened, traders, the call buyers that were driving price higher stopped, and traders continued to buy puts and price moved lower. So that was last Friday. Not quite as strong a pattern today, but that call peak did mark the high of the day, and that was right around 10:30. So we'll take a look at that first. So first of all, this reversal pattern right around 9:37, where traders started selling puts, and then the call peak pattern right around 10:30. All right, so let's go to Bookmap, go back to the S&P 500. Zoom in on this. Oops. Okay, so here's this reversal in the morning. The volume dots in Bookmap show market buy minus sell. Magenta dots show more sellers than buyers, and green volume dots indicate more buyers than sellers. So you can see that very small magenta volume dot, sellers are exhausted there, and aggressive buyers starting to come in as traders were taking positive delta positions. Again, put sellers first, then call buyers. Price moved higher and up to levels that you expect to act as resistance. Again, the SPY 572 volatility trigger and the SPX 5738 zero gamma low. In this case, I think the SPY 572 volatility trigger had a little bit more weight. Volatility triggers I look at as potential resistance when tested from below, or potential support when tested from above. And again, it took a while for this to turn around, but price did move lower. And one thing to note here, let's take a look at the subchart. So I have 4 lines on the subchart. Light blue line, that's iceberg orders, not providing much of a clue here. That stop orders, the yellow line, a little bit of a rise, showing buy stop orders were helping to fuel that move higher. The magenta line is cumulative volume delta, starts to sharply rise as those aggressive buyers start to come in. Note also this price change. This is market pulse price change. There are a variety of algorithms with market pulse. I like the price change algorithm. And note this actually starts to move higher at the same time, or maybe even a little quicker than price. So when you zoom in, you can see there's a little bit of a rise in the market pulse price change before price reverses higher. I just drew this line in manually. This right around 57.38.39 did act as support later on in the day. All right, so that's that move higher. We saw the clues in the market in the hero signal for the S&P 500 index, and then also in Bookmap. Aggressive sellers are exhausted. Aggressive buyers start to come in. Market pulse price change indicator shifts sharply higher, and price moves up to levels you expect to act as resistance. All right, so that is the long setup this morning. And let's take a look at the short setup, and then we'll get to the Nasdaq and then the current market. All right, let's take a look at Nasdaq now. Let me zoom in on this just a bit. All right, so there's one additional clue to a potential reversal here in Nasdaq, and this was the iceberg orders, shown by that rising blue line. Very typical behavior of large traders. They use iceberg orders to hide their size. They will often buy weakness and sell strength. They're trading in large size, and that's how they normally trade. So again, rising light blue line showing traders were fading this move, buying with iceberg orders. And again, aggressive buyers start to come in, and price grinds higher, making a series of lower highs and lower lows, higher highs and higher lows. Again, market pulse price change indicator, sharp move higher, cumulative volume delta rising. Also, stop orders, buy stop orders help to fuel that move higher. All right, let's go see what options traders are doing. And let's go to, close full screen. We'll go to the Nasdaq signal first. That's the index signal, showing a combined signal of NDX and QQQ. There's another signal that we can take a look at, the SP 500. That is the Mag 7 signal that shows options trades and market maker hedging activity for the stocks known as the Magnificent Seven: Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, Tesla. Let's go to full screen. We didn't look at the SB equity signal, but I thought it was a little bit lagging this morning. Same here for the Mag 7 signal. And note the SB equity signal is often the Mag 7 plus 493. Traders start selling puts, buying calls a few minutes later. Price moves higher. And that does help to drive price higher, especially call buyers. When traders buy calls in these stocks, market makers sell the calls, and they have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. Let's go back to Nasdaq. And again, in the morning for this reversal higher, I thought a little bit more of a leading indicator. This vertical line on the put line shows a large block order, some institution selling puts, large block order. Also note from the open, traders are buying calls in the index. So when traders buy and sell, buy calls in QQQ and NDX, market makers take the opposite side of the trades, and they will hedge their delta exposure by buying NQ futures. All right, so there's the long setup this morning. We took a look at the clues in Bookmap, especially the iceberg orders, providing a leading indicator to that move higher. And note here, traders start buying puts right around 10:25. Call peak right here, right around 11:10, 11:15. Price moves lower. Let's go back to Bookmap. Oops. Got to turn that off. Scroll over a little bit. Trend line break. Aggressive sellers start to come in. Break below the 20,200 level. Cumulative volume delta starts to fall. Oops, wrong tool. Price moves lower, back down to the support level just after the open. All right, so that's Nasdaq. And again, Nasdaq found support at this cluster of levels. We'll get to the live market in just a minute. All right, any questions? Any questions so far about what I've showed with the S&P 500 and Nasdaq? All right, let's take a quick look at some stocks. Then we'll get to the live market. First stock I want to take a look at is AMD. And I really did not see a lot of good setups in stocks today. So we'll take a look at, I just saw three. All right, so let's start with AMD. Again, traders taking advantage of higher implied volatility. Selling puts, start buying calls a few minutes later. Flow alert comes in, get your attention, and hedging flow shifts positive. Traders selling puts, buying calls. Market makers take the opposite side of those trades, and they hedge their delta exposure by buying stock. Call peak pattern here. And then call buyers become call sellers, start buying puts. You know, AMD consolidating, moving lower. Let's go back to Bookmap. You can see the shift in order flow here. This is cumulative volume delta in the subchart. Moving higher, starts to level off, then moves higher, lower. Trend break as options traders take their foot off the gas, and now price grinding lower back down below VWAP. This is light blue line right here. All right, so that's AMD. All right, let's take a look at NVIDIA. All right, so I would imagine everyone is aware of the news. Friday after the close, there was an announcement that NVIDIA would replace Intel in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I don't know how much that means. We'll take a look and see what options traders think of that in just a minute. So NVIDIA is moving higher. So let's see what options traders are doing today. So let's go to NVIDIA. Zoom in a little bit. All right, so it looks like with a rising orange line, call buyers were driving price higher. Some ups and downs, really coming in with more conviction right around 1020, 1025. And then they take the foot off the gas about 11:15. And they start selling calls, and price now moving lower. Or was moving lower. Let's see. I zoomed in a little bit. All right, let's take a look and let's see how much conviction options traders have. Let's take a closer look at these calls, and I can turn on this next expiry, which would be Friday expiration. So I would look for more conviction if traders were buying longer term calls, and here in this case they're just buying calls that expire on Friday. So this could be any typical day for NVIDIA, not necessarily reacting to the news that NVIDIA was added to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. All right, so right now, the short-term call buyers really in charge of price. And again, those are calls that expire on Friday. Let's take one look at one more stock. Let's go to Tesla. All right, Tesla, as usual, very heavily driven by options traders. Zoom in on this just a little bit. So you can see in the morning there was a sharp move down as traders were buying puts and selling calls. Price started to move higher before. Doesn't really matter, doesn't give you much of a lead, but when traders buy calls and sell puts, market makers have to take the opposite side of those trades and they buy stock. So that helps to fuel that move higher. And let's go to Tesla now. All right, for Tesla, 247.50 is the hedge wall. That's this level right here. And above that, the key gamma strike is at 250. Cumulative volume delta continues to fall. You can see the reversal here, though, as some aggressive buyers came in, and then the call buyers and put sellers picked up the ball, moved Tesla up above the 247.50 hedge wall. As options traders took their foot off the gas, there's a trend break here. Aggressive sellers came in and price moved lower. Now chopping up and down around VWAP, and also point of control, which for a stock is typically the opening print until the closing print. Let's go back to Hero. All right, so that was a good long at right around the 240 level. Let's go back, take a look at Hero again. All right, does anyone have any stocks they want me to take a look at? So aggressive buyers started to come in, and traders had already started to sell puts, again, taking advantage of higher implied volatility. Call buyers come in, and when they take the foot off the gas, somewhere between the 247.50 hedge wall, 250 key gamma strike, price consolidates, then starts to move lower. Now chopping around again VWAP and the point of control as options traders have stopped. All right, does anyone have any stocks they want me to take a look at? Nate, welcome, glad you're here. Wants to take a look at Excel. All right, I don't have Excel and Bookmap. Not quite sure what that is. Let's see if it's available in Hero. All right, sorry, Nate, I don't think it's in here. It's still showing the SP 500 Hero signal. Let's take a look at S&P equities. I think S&P 500 index signal providing a better signal today. Let's shift to the total line. Yeah, definitely. When we look at puts and calls combined, definitely providing a more clear signal than the S&P equity signal. Let's go back and take a look. So now it just looks like again, remember the call peak. Price move lower. I'm sure put sellers came back in again. Let's go back to the puts and calls. Put sellers came in, call buyers followed. Another call peak there. And now it looks like the SP 500 is kind of settled down. Let's go to Bookmap. Go back to ES. All right, again, any questions? Does anyone have any stocks they want me to take a look at? Let's go back to Hero. We'll zoom in a bit. All right, let's take a look at Trace. Go to Delta Pressure. What this chart is showing, this is the another Greek on Trace. And this delta pressure is red is market maker selling pressure, blue market maker buying support. So right now, looking in hindsight, this is pretty clear that there was selling pressure this morning. Again, right at the 57.38 level, and that's SPX. And SPY 572. SPX had moved up into the red selling zone, moved down just below the put wall into a blue buying support zone. Now it looks like somewhat neutral. Hero is flattened out, and SPX is in a neutral zone between red buying pressure, selling pressure above, and blue buying support below. Note these contour lines. Oops. This contour line is sloping up. Let's go back in time. I'm going to go back, let's say, to about 11 o'clock. So when you go back in time, you can see this is the initial, that move higher just after the open that I talked about, as SPX moved down into the buying support zone. And if you're looking for like how long do I hold a runner? Well, if you got long here, you would really want to wait until SPX approached this red selling pressure zone to to either exit long or look for short. So this is like a heat map for Bookmap, a heat map for options trades here in the delta pressure. Caesar says those Mag 7 stocks you shared were great today. Definitely a day trading kind of day. Would be frustrating to have a long-term directional position. It depends on how you're positioned. But yeah, great day trading, especially for Tesla. Tesla, as usual, was about the best trading stock today. Often Nvidia and Meta are as well. I did not see much in as far as options trades go in Meta to drive any kind of price action, at least earlier in the day. So of the Mag 7, Tesla I thought was definitely the best. All right, so we're looking at delta pressure, providing more clues for long and short setup this morning. Let's go back to real time now. Contour line sloping up, indicating buying pressure moving up and buying support moving up, selling pressure receding. Let's take a look at one other chart here on the trace tool. This is Charm. Charm is the change in delta. It's a second order Greek change in delta as price changes, or the change, right, the change in delta as price changes as time passes. I'm sorry, change in delta as time passes. And these are related to 0 DT options that expire today. And these zones between blue and red can often point to end of day pinning areas. So this one is at 57.20. 57.20 here. This one right around 57.50. So again, Charm, change in delta as time passes. So these options that expire today will have an impact at end of day where a price potentially pins. Let's go back to delta pressure. So it looks like SPX still in somewhat of a neutral zone. Note I am using the S&P 500 hero signal. Let's go back to Bookmap. So SPX still chopping around very narrow trading range today. Let's take a look at Nasdaq. Also now seems to have found some resistance right around QQQ 488. Now maybe trading down below the, testing the volatility trigger for NDX. We'll keep an eye on that, see if it acts as support or if price breaks lower. Let's go to Hero. Let's see what options traders are doing in Nasdaq. Go to the Nasdaq signal first. That's definitely moving lower. We'll check Mag 7. Also moving lower. So based on this, I would look for Nasdaq to break down below the volatility trigger. We'll see if that plays out. See if some buyers come in. So right now, Nasdaq trade testing the NQ 2150 level. Making a series of lower highs. When I'm trading, I have several screens that I'm looking at. On one screen, I have Spotgamma charts, Hero and Trace. And then on my main screen here in the middle, I have Bookmap. And then on the right, I have my trading platform. You know, of course, when I'm presenting here, I can only show one chart. So I'm jumping back and forth. Let's take a look at Hero again. For Nasdaq, the index signal continues to move lower. Mag 7 signal also moving lower. Back to Nasdaq. Zoom in on this just a little bit more. And there's the break below 150. We'll see if the volatility trigger, white line, acts as support. Market Pulse price change indicator. These threshold, the green threshold, I look at that as a confirmation of a short signal. So we know that the Hero signal was falling. Price was making a series of lower highs. Key level approaching. And price breaks down below that level. Market Pulse price change indicator, again giving you a confirmation of a short at that test of the trend line again. So far, even if you got in at 150, that was good for 10 point plus move lower in Nasdaq if you're scalping. All right, so next level's below. So now Nasdaq has broken below VWAP, below point of control. Next level 487. And then next level below that is the 20,000 level. That's the large gamma 3 level. So very nice short setup there and in NQ. Again, confirmations, lower highs, both hero signals for Mag 7 and Nasdaq moving lower. We'll see here look here in the subchart, cumulative volume delta dropping. Blue line for iceberg orders is flat. Market pulse price change indicator marks these extremes that I would use for a short entry in a downtrend. So altogether that was good for at least a 25-point move lower from 150 to 125. All right, so nice way to wrap up the day. Short setup in Nasdaq, again confirmed by hedging flow and order flow in Bookmap. And WRB says, thank you for the first day of Super Bowl trading this week. Yeah, should be an interesting week. All right, everyone, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your questions and comments. Have a great afternoon. And again, remember, of course, election tomorrow, and FOMC, also ISM services PMI, 10 a.m., FOMC on Thursday. So we'll talk about the election on Wednesday. All right, everyone, have a great afternoon, and I will see you on Wednesday. Thanks again. Bye.